Man, so do you want to just complain while eating cupcakes and just burying everybody in wrestling?
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah. And then we can just get in a fight backstage and then, get all our titles
Yeah,
stripped. So that'll
yeah.
be fun.
One of us can get bit because that's
uh,
something grown people do in a fight.
just real quick, we'll just go over this. If for some reason you just like, I know there's a couple of you that listen that don't actually follow any of this wrestling but you do enjoy it. But anyway, after CM Punk won the world title from John Moxley at All Out, he unleashed what has been now called the Gripe Bomb, where he just complained about Cole Cabana, about him having a bank account with his mom. Which, there's a bunch of reasons why you could have a bank account with your mom and not be a loser. And then Hangman Page, the Young Bucks, the children who couldn't work at a Target. Uh, and then he said, if anyone has a problem with it, you can come. They know where to find me. And the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega reportedly took that advice, and Punk came out swinging. Ace Steel, who showed up recently to give him a hype up and just got hired from AEW, bit Kenny Omega and threw a chair at Nick Jackson. Um, those are the things no one's disputing. No one's disputing that Ace Steel bit a dude and threw a chair at Nick Jackson. And and the other thing that, which I think is kind of adorable, is the other thing that seems to be also undisputed, is that Kenny Omega first made sure Larry the dog was safe before he, got bit by Ace Steel and all that. So who knows? Um, but yeah, that's what happened in wrestling. Uh, and it was a kind of lackluster All Out. I'll say that much. And you didn't even watch it at all, right?
I didn't. I am disappointed that I didn't find the time to watch Swerve in Our Glory and The Acclaimed, because everything I've read said it basically stole the show. So at some point, I will find the time to give that the 20-ish minutes that it deserves. Um, if for nothing else, then daddy
Yeah.
ass.
I mean,
Uh,
you'll get it at Arthur Ashe Stadium because they're gonna run it back at
they're
Arthur
gonna run
Ashe.
it
But
back.
yeah,
I think they realized that the belt should have ended up changing hands.
yeah.
Um, so he's got to rectify that at Arthur Ashe. But
There was one person that was asking Tony Khan before all this Punk madness, who was asking about like, oh, like shouldn't you have or it might have been when the swerve was on there, part of the um, the scrum. He asked like, "Oh, you heard the crowd reaction. Didn't you think about calling an audible to like put the titles on Acclaimed?" And it's like that's just batshit crazy to just like, "Oh yeah, mid match, the crowd seems to be really into this, so let's just change all our plans." It was like, who do you
yeah,
think you are?
yeah, you'd think that the people at the scrum haven't had any experience in wrestling. Like SummerSlam happens, and Vince knows exactly what needed to happen there to get him to his already planned WrestleMania.
Yeah,
So it's not like Tony Khan can call an audible just because the crowd is there. He's got well, based on a lot of their creative, I don't think he plans very far in advance, but he's got to have at least something going on.
yeah,
Even if the plan was just to run it back, because it appears that there is a breakup brewing between Swerve and Keith Lee. Um, that Swerve is definitely going heel here lately, and I think Keith Lee is going to strike out on his own. Keith Lee could actually be a credible contender for Wardlow,
yeah.
so that could be nice. Um, but
Well,
yeah, I,
yeah, I think my complaint about All Out in general is, there ended up being, we already kind of knew this going in, too many matches and certain things that should have just gotten a lot more time, like Starks and Hobbs got what, like I think 4 or 5 minutes, 6 minutes maybe. Um, like there were some things that had to be changed, like Jungle Boy and Christian Cage. I guess Christian is hurt and needs surgery himself. Um, so they kind of just did the whole Paul White treatment to Luchasaurus, and kind of just turned him heel again. Um, so for whatever reason, so there are certain things that just, and then the women's match, they built up Athena versus Jade Cargill for like, I don't know, like 3 months at this point, and it's like a 4 minute long match, and supposedly
Yeah.
they had um more time allotted, and they just decided to kind of kill it early or something. I don't know. There's more to it there, but like it was early enough in the show that it couldn't have. I couldn't have been like, oh, this show's running too long. So I don't know. It was just kind of bizarre, and I think part of the solution to that is to run less matches
Yeah.
and do something more tight, like Clash of the Castle.
Yeah, no, Clash at the Castle was the ideal length for a show. I mean, it were only what, 5 matches.
Yeah, something like
Um,
that.
I mean, and there wasn't a ton of filler. Everything got an extended, match time. Some of it probably didn't need it. There's a little more Dominic Mysterio than I'm ever going to need on a show, but yeah, no, I thought Clash at the Castle was great, and based on everything that you said and I've read online, the there were what, I think it was 17 matches if you count the kickoff,
Yeah,
buy-in, whatever the hell. And that's just too many. I mean, and you've got a fan favorite in Eddie Kingston, going against a legend, and you've got it in the buy-in because you needed to cram it in there somewhere. That's enough to tell you got too much on the card.
yeah, and
I mean,
that
he's kind of in this at this place now too, where they've got so many titles that all of TV should be building to title matches at pay-per-views since he only has 4 a year. I mean, plus you throw in the 2 or 3 battle of the belts where you can just kind of pick and choose 2 or 3 of them. But yeah, all of the pay-per-views should just be, maybe one marquee match like NXT always did, like the new guy versus Chris Hero, uh, which was basically just the recipe for NXT. Let Chris Hero make somebody look great, and then four title matches. Like that is a takeover. I mean, that's the formula, and I get it. You get all these people that you're trying to get that pay per view payday, um, but I mean, you gotta just do two of the ladder matches or something so you can get more of the women on TV.
yeah.
Do larger groupings in the ladder match. I don't know what you got to do to get them on there, but to just running 3 and 4 minute matches is not the solution. It's not fair to anybody.
Yeah. And I mean, there could have been some more factors, like supposedly Starks and Hobbs and Athena and Jade had more time, but it's just still weird, especially the Jade and Athena thing, since they were building it forever. But we talked about, mentioned Clash of the Castle. Oh, we already talked about this. I already forgot. We recorded right after Clash of the Castle last week. Um, but we did get a confirmation that post match Tyson Fury Drew McIntyre sing along was they were supposed to cut before that any of that happened, because it was a
Yeah,
little
that
weird, like why Drew was like, oh, I just lost a really big match, but let's just sing along now to Oasis. That's great.
it was accidental, and I wonder if they had to pay royalties to to Oasis and
Yeah.
Don McLean's family because that went to air. That I mean, that probably was not cheap. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of love that it accidentally went on, and that they didn't scrub it from the replay, because by the time I got to it, it was the replay and it was still there. So
Mm,
Peacock just left it. I guess they thought it was great too. So um, that was one of the highlights of the show, actually.
yeah. So you didn't watch All Out, but I still never got around to Worlds Collide. I randomly watched SmackDown today, but instead of going back to Worlds Collide. Uh, so tell us about some highlights of that.
Worlds Collide wasn't a bad show. I think there's still a lot going on. Kind of not trying to just like hit a reset button on NXT. So a lot of it they didn't reinvent the wheel. Um, the real surprise of the show was just how good Tyler Bate Braun Breaker was. Um, I probably would have been a little happier if Tyler Bate pulled off a win, but when Tyler Bate came out on Tuesday night and said, Braun Breaker and I made magic in this ring, he wasn't kidding. That was the best Braun Breaker has ever looked. Tyler Bate looked like $1 million. If and now they're kind of getting paired together against Gallus, and if they become a tag team, the big strong boys, I am 100% there for it. Uh, Initially, big strong boy, it weirded me out. It's just a phrase that's got like gives me the heebie-jeebies. But yeah, no, that match was something special. The triple threat women's match was incredibly well booked. I'm pretty sure I said it when we recorded the other day, but I mean, I knew either Mandy Rose was headed to SmackDown or Mandy Rose was getting that belt, and she's worked for it. So that and it happened in the best way possible. Everybody looked great, and then she just happened to hit the kiss from a rose, like in the one moment in that match when it made the most sense for her to win a triple threat match. So I all in all, the show was great. I think I got hit with a little bit of wrestling fatigue, which is weird considering I didn't even watch All Out. Um, but after Clash at the Castle, and I had caught up on the whole week going into Clash at the Castle. Um, uh, I think it sullied Carmelo Hayes Ricochet for me. Not
Yeah.
to say it was a bad match. It was electric, but I don't I don't think I had the brain capacity left for it by that point. And then I think as the show went on and like I got more and more invested into things, it yeah, it was a good show. WWE won Labor Day, hands down.
Yeah.
Um, the Clash at the Castle alone did that. Well, I take that back. Gunther and Sheamus alone could have won the weekend. But yeah, to follow it up with that Breaker Bait match, it was a really good weekend for them.
Yeah. I'm excited because I just watched SmackDown and they opened up with a Brawling Brutes versus the Imperium triple or 6-man match, and I wish it was coming up on Friday when I'm actually going to SmackDown. Maybe they'll run it back somehow. I don't know. It's WWE. They do still run a lot of the same matches over and over again. um, but yeah, man, it's just kind of good right now, and there are some, they've got the right, they have a good amount of talent and they're not overloaded with talent on both shows. They have the proper amount of time to really run. I mean, they've got like, at least on their two main shows, they've got 2 extra hours of TV time a week, which,
Yeah,
on Raw that could still kind of backfire and lead to a bad show, but they still have more time. Um, and the same kind of roster size as AEW. I do think um, watching kind of Dynamite this week, with it was kind of interesting to see, like, you can tell that supposedly that Danielson, Jericho, and Moxley ran a kind of a what, I don't know, locker room meeting before that show, and I don't know, it felt really really good, and it was a good show. And then there was the shows from Jericho and Mox, or the promos from Jericho and Moxley very much felt like, you know, they're like, Moxley starts his this promos talking about how he was embarrassed, and in kayfabe, he's talking about how he lost to CM Punk just in general, or unnamed opponent, because they're not even mentioning anyone's names and everyone's been scrubbed from all the like uh the only place you can see CM Punk and Omega in any kind of thing is on the Fight Forever video game, like, box covers they're using for the thing now. But him talking about being embarrassed was about that situation, the gripe bomb and the
yeah,
fallout from all that. And I think it's just kind of a a cool way to kind of nod to it, and the show in general just felt like just very streamlined and together, and like it felt like there was a lot of unity on the people that were there. Like they were like, we're gonna like make this work, and we're gonna show that we don't even need the rest of those guys, like any of them.
Yeah.
And I thought that
Yeah.
was really well done.
And Jericho was talking on his podcast about it too, and he said, I don't need some bullshit senior EVP title or anything. I was here when this started. I helped build this thing, and I'm gonna see it through, regardless of what anybody else does. And it like you can tell that. Yeah, I know a lot of the gripe was that the WWE guys come over and they get tons of TV time and they get pushed real quick and things like that. But those guys that were there early, Jericho and Mox, and I mean they're invested in this thing. So yeah, there was a whole lot of truth interwoven in his kayfabe promo there. Um, but hell, I'm just as excited to see Mox MJF as I am anything else. So
Yeah,
uh, I'm thankful for the gripe bomb because one, it might it might purge the 45 minutes of CM Punk a week from AEW programming, which I've been quite vocal about not liking.
yeah,
Um, I had to watch Eddie Kingston eat a loss for that some bitch. So I'm not. I was
yeah.
never going to be a Punk fan at all. Um, there was our obligatory Eddie Kingston mention, the Mad King. That's twice that I've brought him up.
Yeah,
Just for those of you keeping count. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that it was important, particularly for those guys who, yeah, they get a ton of TV time. Jericho in particular still gets a ton of TV time. Be that ring time, backstage promo time, or commentary. Um, Moxley gets an extended period on pretty much every show. Um, this one he wasn't even supposed to be on. He was supposed to be on vacation, and he had to come back
yeah,
and lead the rah rah speech for the locker room. Um, but I think it's for the best, honestly. If they can keep the shows from being flooded with those guys that have kind of saturated the TV time since it started.
yeah,
Spread the wealth a little bit. We've talked about it before, but I wholeheartedly believe that that all of the roster should cycle through. They've got what, 5 shows:
mm,
Elevation and Dark and just all of them. I think one week uh, maybe Claudio wrestles on Elevation, and I don't know, the Workhorsemen get a main event match on Dynamite. Like, just I mean, I feel like that's the best way to use the roster, and it's the kind of stuff that you used to see on you know um, some of the smaller promotion stuff like Ring of Honor. It felt like that the card for a Ring of Honor show, from start to finish, they would slot matches in wherever,
mm,
um, just because it didn't matter where they were on the card. And sometimes you throw guys in a main event spot to see if it sticks. And
yeah,
I think there's a lot of value in that for a roster that's this big. Plus, if you tell people, "Hey, go to our YouTube channel," John Moxley wrestled. I don't know, throw some other big guy in a match on Dark, just because Mox and Renee were at Universal, and they're like, "Run over here and film a match right quick, and we'll,
yeah,
you can take Dynamite off." And you're like, "Oh hell yeah, that sounds great." Um, so I think you gotta keep eyes on the entire roster, not just 10 people. So I think this is going to clear up a lot of TV time and force Tony Khan to be a little more creative,
yeah.
where he's sort of used the easy button far too often um,
I think,
in the last year.
yeah, I think since they've gone back on the road and since they've had CM Punk, it's been less focused and stuff. I think when in the I think they handled COVID exceptionally well, and they
Yeah,
had because of that, because of COVID, they had a limited roster size, and that was part of the reason why Cody was running that open challenge, is because like they didn't have enough the regular roster to like conceivably just have him face over and over again. So they were just
Yeah.
bringing in any, not only giving an indie wrestler a payday, but like kind of just bringing people in to be
Well,
fresh. But it was like, faced in those constraints, it was actually led to a better overall product.
well, and even then, you had guys like Austin and Colton Gunn that nobody knew who the hell they were, and suddenly they take over the AEW Instagram page, and they're the most vocal people at ringside, and like
Yeah,
they're getting tons of attention. Like they do Talk as Jericho because they got so much attention, sitting at ringside with Billy. Um, I mean, it can be as simple as little stuff like that. I mean, who the hell is Fuego del Sol? But coming out of COVID, he was like the hottest damn thing in the
yeah.
promotion. like, uh, I mean, they really did it. He made use of what he had sitting in front of him rather than, I've got this guy that I paid too much to come back and suck it up each week.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and just we'll just put him on TV. With commercial breaks, Dynamite's only like an hour and 32 minutes long.
right.
Um, and CM Punk was eating up like 40 minutes of that every week.
Yeah,
So, yeah, give me more Hollywood hunk on Dynamite. Do more of the big Ring of Honor angles on Dynamite and convince people to watch Rampage for Darby Allin or Moxley or
yeah.
things like that. I mean, it's they're really they need to get people to watch Rampage. Because those ratings are in the shitter. So they they need to get people to at least watch the other hour that they have on broadcast TV. Because if those numbers don't come up, the talks of a streaming deal with Warner probably aren't going to go very far.
I mean, to be fair, the Friday night slot, I mean, I know SmackDown makes it worth, but it is a somewhat of a death slot, in the fact that it is still twice as good in ratings as what they had there before. So,
Well, I
um
mean, it's not hard to beat
yeah.
25-year-old Charmed reruns. So
I have a
uh,
gripe because I hardly ever watch Rampage live, and I watch everything by the apps, because I don't have cable. Um and so I always miss, like, we're like, oh, I'm going to continue this in picture, and then if me watching it on the app means I don't see any of that part of the match. So, and
no,
sometimes, unlike WWE, when they go to commercial break, really nothing happens uh during, like, they'll dive and it goes to a commercial break and they come back, and you didn't really miss much of anything in those 2.5 minutes. um and back and during COVID, when they were doing the Thunderdome, they would straight up like stop wrestling during the commercial break. Because, like, why the hell are we even spending time for it? Because we could just cut the feed to the Thunderdome people too, and just like rest for 2.5 minutes, which is kind of amazing.
yeah.
Um, but
Well, it kind of makes you wonder why they planned breaks in the match, like
mm,
why they didn't just wrestle the whole match and just cut it for commercial.
yeah.
But
Uh,
or
um,
do like I've always thought and do commercials between matches instead of in the damn middle.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I wish there was a way to like maintain those picture in picture breaks, like even with these like streaming ads. That would be amazing. But probably not. They don't really care. They'd be like, you should just watch live. Even though, again, Friday things are open up again. You can get a second booster shot if you want to. Um, like, I don't want to be at home on Friday night.
I
So
mean, I'm at home on Friday night and I still don't watch Rampage.
oh
Truth
man.
be told, at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, I'm dropping in on Fortnite with my John Cena skin, because the baby has finally gone to sleep. I got a few minutes to myself, so I've John Cena would not approve. I've become incredibly toxic using the John Cena skin. So, I mean, they shouldn't have given me the "you can't see me" taunt, because I'm just going to do it every time I kill somebody.
Yeah. From
But
Dragon Con, also Labor Day weekend, someone was cosplaying as Peacemaker John Cena, and they had some wrestling ring set up, and he did the Peacemaker dance all the way to the ring. It looks great. So I'm praying for WWE or AEW if you want that corporate synergy. Like please just give us Peacemaker. I'd be fine with Peacemaker John Cena if that's what we need, because I think it would also be great. I
it
would love it.
it would have to they it would just have to be a random one off where Peacemaker wrestles a match against Robocop or something,
Yes.
like something just completely stupid. And it's the only way that John Cena would feel comfortable doing it, um, so as to not piss off, wrestling daddy. Um, and but I think it would be amazing. But WWE's not going to let him do it because it would either Peacock or USA would not be thrilled that he was promoting something on HBO,
Yeah.
and yeah, so I don't know, I mean, they could have given him a outlet. He didn't have to go to HBO, their NBC, Universal, Comcast, whatever the hell else you own.
Yeah. I'll put it in the show notes, but there's a just to talk about the crazy like couple of years in this decade so far. Someone rewrote the lyrics of Billy Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire" with just all the just crazy wrestling shit that's happened in the last 2 years, or 2.5 years. It's pretty great. So I'm gonna put it in the show notes. I think that's be good. Um, well, I think our show title is definitely Peacemaker versus RoboCop. Uh, But anything else you want to add? Anything else you're excited about in this coming up week of wrestling?
No, it's a fairly slow week. It tomorrow. What? Oh Jesus, I'm so tired. I don't know what day it is. It is Monday. So tomorrow night, NXT 2.0 celebrates their 1 year anniversary. I If you go online, there are a bunch of polls where you can vote for the awards they're going to give out. Um, I found it a little weird that all of Toxic Attraction is lumped together as the biggest star of NXT 2.0, because it's definitely just Mandy Rose. Um, like, I don't feel like there's any question about it. So enjoy the nudge there. Rest of Toxic Attraction, who appeared on SmackDown. You watched SmackDown in a pretty good
Hmm.
tag match. Um, Meltzer's reporting that they haven't been called up. They're just kind of being used because they're trying to keep the women's tag division, on TV and fertile. Um,
Yeah, and then with Sasha and Naomi still being kind of absent, like whatever. Like there's just not. I was looking at that roster, and there's the women's roster, particularly on that show. It just feels real light right now.
Yeah, they're having to do a lot of the hodgepodge tag teams.
Mm.
Um, and other question about the women's division: has Charlotte not finished filming that TV show yet? Like, where the hell is she? I expected her back in Nashville.
Yeah,
Um, so that's kind of a shocker, unless there really is some sort of bad blood there lingering about Rick or Andrade or whatever. I mean, she could slot in somewhere. I don't know who you'd pair her with. And Bailey's kind of got to fly solo since she's a mentor to a tag team.
yeah,
Um, there's not really anybody in NXT you could pair her with either. So who knows? Maybe Charlotte and Mandy Rose will be a tag team, become tag team champions, and that'll work. It could always happen. Um, So there's the NXT 2.0 anniversary show is tomorrow. Um, I think I think for SmackDown you're getting they're running back Imperium Brawling Brutes, but I don't think Gunther and Sheamus are part of the match. I think it's
just a tag.
Eichner, Bartel, and then Dunn and what the hell is his name? The the big one. I can't ever remember the one that hurt Big E. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember his
him.
name either. Yeah,
Yeah. Ridge Holland. That's it.
Yeah,
He doesn't carry the Billy Club anymore. I was going to say the Billy Club guy, but I think you're getting a straight up tag match. But I could be mistaken. You will undoubtedly get a an appearance from our tribal chief in L.A. He's got to set something up for their next trip to Saudi Arabia.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think that's where
I,
the goodwill of for Triple H starts to just falter just a little bit. I think he'll survive that, but I do feel like it's like, oh, we're still doing this. Like I feel like when we get to that point, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot. Like that's still something that happens. So
yeah, I feel like it'll kind of be like if the when a football team has to hire a new coach and they
yeah,
suck for like a year or two. I mean, he doesn't have any control over a 10-year pact for billions of blood money. So
yeah,
we're not going to hold it against him. It's still the last guy's poor recruiting that made that happen.
yeah. Yeah, and so we got one last thing on Dynamite. We have a continuation of the tournament. I don't have the complete thing, but we had Sammy, we had Darby, Mox, Hangman, Danielson, and Jericho in a tournament for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship.
It's
On, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
On Dynamite, we had Hangman versus Brian Danielson, where Danielson came off victorious first out of three, where he actually won against Hangman, and he lost or they drew on that first time limit draw, and then Hangman won that second time, and he won here. I do feel like like by Hangman not winning, it's like although he's not responsible for all the kind of gripe bomb and locker room fight and all that stuff, but I feel like we're not going to put the title on you because you're just still kind of connected to the rest of it. But I feel like, to me, I feel like it's the right choice to put it on Danielson. It
Yeah,
might
I
be the
mean
best time to do it. Yeah,
he's the one guy in the group that it makes sense to put the belt on. Um, Mox just lost it. I don't know that Jericho needs it
hmm,
anymore. I don't think he ever has to win another belt because his sports entertainer gimmick it kind of functions pretty well without it. Um, who's the fourth guy? Now that we're down to
so
four, did
yeah,
Darby
so
win?
no, Sammy Guevara won. So Sammy
Oh,
Guevara will be facing
fuck.
Mox. I don't know if that's on Dynamite or Rampage, but that's also happening this week because Arthur Ashe is next week. For some reason, I thought Arthur Ashe was this week, so I thought they were straight up doing a 1 day tournament, like 1 night tournament where they're like that Survivor Series in Atlanta from years ago, where
Yeah.
Sheamus was hidden from cashing in that his Money in the Bank with all the
Yeah,
confetti.
even sitting in the crowd, you couldn't see Sheamus because like they turned all the lights on real bright so that the confetti was like glowing, and he already glows in the dark. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I Moxley Sammy is going to be there's going to be a lot of blood in that one. I got a sneaking suspicion. Um, but I feel like you end up it it's got to be a I hate it. It's going to be Danielson Moxley again. And I don't want to see them do this as one of those. It's going to put a strain on Blackpool Combat Club.
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to break up already. I mean, Yuta already dropped his belt last week in a great match. I forgot
Mhm.
to mention that one. Kind of flew under the radar with everything else they
Which
had
with all
freaking
the
going on.
yeah, with all the talk about CM Punk driving ratings, like during their segment, like the highest rating was the beginning of the show when people were just trying to figure out like what they were doing, but they ended the show over 1 million like during that match. People stuck around to watch that match. So that
Yeah,
kind of says those ratings are not much different than when CM Punk's on, so maybe you don't need them.
yeah, and I mean, it's an ongoing testament to the star power, and I think it's Garcia.
Mhm.
Um, and I honestly, I'll give Jericho the rub for it. Um, Everything he's done with Garcia, with Cool Hand Ange and Daddy Magic. The only misstep that I feel like he has taken has been Sammy. But
Yeah.
I mean, hell, we even got a banger out of Jake Hager, what, last week?
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't know if he even had it in him anymore. Um, but yeah, Garcia's a star, man. He's just putting on a show every time they let him wrestle. Sorry, sports entertain. Um, so I'm not surprised that the ratings stayed up with people knowing that that match was going to close
Yeah.
that show.
And I mean, that pure title can be real damn boring if it's in the wrong hands. And
Yeah,
with Garcia and Yuta, they've like twice now they proved that you can put a damn good match on with those pure rules. I actually think it's going to be Guevara versus Danielson in the finals. I think that's the most interesting matchup, and it's a heel face situation as well. So I think that'll work out pretty well. I wish they would have like opened up the field wider than the Tournament of Champions. I mean, straight up put Wardlow in there. Like, make this. I know, like on one hand, they want to make this a quick turnaround and give something for the Arthur Ashe Stadium people, especially the people that might have bought tickets because CM Punk was going to be there. Um, I think I think also it kind of calls back to that Omega Danielson opener from the Arthur Ashe Grand Slam last year, where people were just applauding, gave a standing ovation just for ringing the bell at the beginning of the match because it was a dream match. So I
yeah.
think having Danielson have a important moment there, I think is maybe the right place to go. I could be wrong. It could end up being Jericho or something again, where they just put the title right back on Mox for a 3-time champion. But I don't think that's the right way to go. So
Well, if they want to scrub the idea that he and CM Punk are the only 2-time champs.
yeah,
One way to quickly do it would be to make him the only 3-time champ. Um, I don't know. We're just gonna hold out hope that Arthur Ashe Stadium is the match of the century. We get
yeah.
Peacemaker versus RoboCop.
All right. Well, on that note, ring the bell, like, subscribe, tell your friends. We'll be back next week with another show, and hopefully, it'll less crazy stuff will be happening.
And
Yeah.
and while you're liking and subscribing, go on Twitter and like Colt Cabana's response to all of this craziness. Because I want a Colt Cabana figure, damn it.
Yeah. Who was it? It was Brian Pillman Jr. He like quote tweeted that, and it's like, we stand Colt Cabana in this household. And Brian Pillman Jr. might say some dumb shit every now and then, but that's true. At least on this podcast too, we stand Colt Cabana.
Yeah. I've been scouring the internet. The only Colt Cabana figure that's not a micro brawler is one of those rising stars of wrestling figures that doesn't look terribly great.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I can get a well made AEW figure of Colt Cabana, I will order it as soon as the pre order goes up. Um, and I mean well made, not like that MJF that has jaundice. So
I mean, MJF
there,
looks like he has John just half the time anyway.
but it's the weirdest thing. If you can go to any Target and just pick up an AEW figure. Um, Actually, if you go to any Target, the only two figures on the shelf are going to be Santana and Ortiz for some reason. And if you can find two of the same figure, half of them are a completely different color. I don't know what the hell is wrong with them, but they look like they have jaundice. It makes no sense whatsoever. They're using the same mold. A computer is mixing the plastics. Like, there's no reason why these figures are so different. Um, but yeah, it's the weirdest thing. You can go check it out at your local Target. Not a plug.
Yeah.
Um,
My
Target
my
Circle,
target
give
only
me
ever seems
stuff.
to have Riho for some reason. So
I think Riho was one that I noticed does it.
yeah.
Instead of jaundice, there's a figure of her that's like ghastly white. Like her skin is scary looking.
Hmm.
There's a Nyla Rose that's weirdly dark. And I don't know if that was intentional or not. God, I hope not. as since all of the figures are messed up, I'm going to assume there's nothing malicious in them.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that MJF, it's just yellow. It looks like a Simpsons toy with like if they did an MJF Simpsonsify me or whatever it is. Yeah, that's what it would look like.
All right. Well, on that note, let's go to your local Target, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.